So here we go. Now that it's recorded, I'll go ahead and get started. So you can go over to the next one. Today is mostly going to be about covering data and how to interpret it. It's going to link a little bit with the previous training that we had. Today, what we really want to do is hopefully help solidify the understanding of the data containers where everything's put. Feel a little bit more comfortable looking at the data that you collect for the students. Explore some of the options and reports that are in CitySpan, and also be able to take what you've interpreted and implement some of that data to improve your programming moving forward. Okay. So today on the agenda, we've got a check-in as always, just see how everybody's doing. I have a quick fun question for you guys. There is going to be a bit of a tweak to the handbook. Karina's going to go over that portion with you guys in just a moment here. After that, we're going to talk a little bit about interpreting data. There'll be a break. I'm going to break you guys out into teams after we come back from the 5-minute break to do a little bit of an exercise at looking at some forms of data and interpreting them. At that time, make sure when you're in your group, pick somebody that's comfortable sharing with the team, because when you come back to the full group, I'm going to have you guys do a bit of a report out. Like I always say, it's good to learn from your peers, and then we'll do a little bit of review after that, have some reflections on what you guys learned. Okay. So just as a quick check-in, going with the theme of the slides that I picked here today, I'm kind of curious about what some of your favorite shows were when you guys were younger. So you can check them in the chat, spit them out when you got them in your head, whichever one you're comfortable with. For me, when I was younger, I used to like to watch a show called Ultraman. I don't know if anyone's ever actually seen Ultraman. It's a very old show, but I do love it. It was basically a dude who would just go like this, and he would grow and then fight Godzilla-like creatures. It was pretty great. I love that show.
I think I've seen that show. Can't you see the zipper in the back of his costume at certain angles? I think
yes, you can.
Yeah.
All the buildings are cardboard. It's great.
Yeah.
The science team and Kenshiro would fight giant Godzilla-like creatures. It's great. Came on Saturday mornings. Anybody else? What are some favorite shows from the crowd out there?
I watched so much Nickelodeon. So like anything that was on Nickelodeon, like Doug, Roundhouse, they would play it at night. Like Crips from the Tail, or Tail from the Crips. Like they all sorts of everything. Everything that ever was I'm trying to think of what else. Real Monsters.
That was a good show.
Yeah, yeah.
Monsters.
Oh, Moesha was a good one too. Yeah.
Was it Are You Afraid of the Dark? Was that the show?
Are You Afraid of the Dark was another one. Hey Dude. The competition ones, the like, oh man, what were they called? The Shrine of the Silver Monkey. What is it called? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? What's that show? The GAC ones or whatever.
Oh, Double Dare.
Double Dare. The video arcade one. I feel like my parents were like, here's your babysitter. Boop, television.
I think that was like that for a lot of us. You know, I was a latchkey kid, nobody home when I got home from school. Just watch TV or play with my toys. I had a lot of action figures.
You know what, Corey, you brought up Ultraman, because I used to come on, if I'm not mistaken, and this is really telling our age, Channel 44.
Well, I don't know. It came on TV Tokyo when I was a kid. So
yes. So it was Channel 44 because during that time after school, and I'm really telling my age, here comes Speed Racer. I used to watch that after school. Woody Woodpecker, Banana Split. Yeah, so I was a latchkey kid. As soon as we came home from school, I would watch 32 and Channel 44. Ultraman. Oh my gosh, Saturday cartoons would be Shazam. All of that. So Woody Woodpecker, all of that. That's my childhood. So wow.
I'm so glad you mentioned banana splits because I brought that up when we did the run through, and of course this group is like, banana what?
Okay, that's not what happened, Michael.
Michael, no, that's okay. We're growing a sexy Mike. That's okay. We'll be there.
I wasn't in the States yet, so don't blame me.
Y'all had some, yeah. The Flintstones, yes. Oh my God, yes, yeah.
So good.
Ooh, let me be quiet because we really aged ourselves. Because I remember when Good Times first came on. I watched it when it first came out.
Thank you for the reminisce. It's always good because I wasn't here yet. I wasn't in the States yet, so I didn't get a chance to see a lot of that stuff. Those 90s, 80s. I was still across the pond. Now, on our next slide here, there is going to be just a quick review. Karina's going to go over our new handbook.
Yes, I am. As soon as I figure out how to switch my screen, then I will share it immediately. All right. Here you go. Let's see. All right. So we have yet to totally compile them all into one singular handbook here, but I'll explain in a minute. We've heard some of your feedback and we have decided to kind of compile as best we can sort of a guide. You know, we've handed you things like the documentation and planning guide, which give like a list of your deadlines and a list of expectations and kind of programmatic guidelines so far, but we do recognize that sometimes things can be in many different places. So aside from, you know, the website, which should include everything, including this guide, we're going to put all of these guides that are slightly tailored to each one of your sites in your Google folder with appendices of quick links to like all of your forms, your registration stuff, all of that stuff in one place. So hopefully it's a little bit easier. I'm not going to spend a ton of minutes on this, but I figured we'll just kind of scroll through and I'll show you all of the very recognizable components to this handbook that we've very technically advanced just pasted together in a row. So we're just going to show it to you really quickly. You know, if there's any questions, feel free to just put in the chat or just kind of, you know, yell at me over Zoom. And if you need like a more, you know, one-on-one kind of walk through any of these components, feel free to reach out to any of your program managers and, you know, we can make that happen. So just really quickly, we've got this guide, a little bit of a table of contents. We recently created this checklist of yearly deliverables that you've received later on this year. It's just a plain no frills checklist of all of the actual hard deliverables that you need throughout the year. We've got them broken up and where they are, which you've seen before. And then we've added very similarly, just a yearly calendar. There's no details on the processes, no like actual like detailed like process content. It's just the list of the deliverable and when it's due, so that there's no miscommunication about, you know, how to kind of break up your time throughout the school year. You can look at it at the beginning and this is what it's going to be. So there's no miscommunication going forward. So it's a calendar. So I'm going to keep scrolling. All right. And then the next section is the documentation and planning report guide with all the requirements. This is the stuff that goes into a little bit more detail. You've seen this as well before. It talks about the different data deliverables, the different, you know, things that we need in order to kind of, you know, perform our 21st century programming. You've seen this as well before. It's the same exact documentation and planning guide, just kind of posted in here. And then at the end, which we've customized to each site, there's going to be an appendix. So it's going to have your school name and the year, and then it's going to have quick links to all of the forms that you need. It's going to have your Google Site folder, the Ask and Engage website, City Span, and the onboarding package, which obviously has like subsequent links to your, like onboarding compliance stuff. And then all of these will be quick linked to the Google Forms within your site folder. So everything should hopefully be in one place, and hopefully it's more helpful and streamlined going forward. Does anybody have any questions?
I do have just a quick question. I did see, sorry if this is bouncing
You're
off
good.
somebody else. I did see that parent surveys and student surveys were for September, and I know this is probably not a question for this, but we're going to go to orientation, which is next week, which is technically August. That's okay. It's not September, but it's for September and October and November.
Yeah, yeah. Those are just like our general hard like cutoff deadlines. If you get them in earlier, great. Awesome.
I would even add, like, depending on the rhythm of the school year, you might be doing the survey in early October. That would be okay. And just like communicate with the program manager, maybe you've got an activity October 10th and you want to do it then. That's fine. But we think it just really needs to happen early in the year that you do that survey, because you want to know what your parents want, So at the orientation is perfect. Perfect.
All right, awesome question. I'll check the chat real quick. All right. All right, so if nobody has any other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and give the mic back to Corey. All right, y'all know where to reach me anyway, so.
And excuse me, going off a little bit of what Mike just said, it is gonna kind of lean into what we're covering today. We're talking about interpretation of data and why getting those surveys squared away and what the parents are looking for is gonna help you out moving forward. So in our next slide here, I'm going to start to talk to you guys a little bit about interpreting data. To be honest with you, that whole concept of data itself can be pretty wide ranging. And we don't expect that, my training today of about 15 to 20 minutes or an hour, or however long we're going over everything with you guys, that this is going to turn you into a data analyst. It's not going to give you a job as a statistician with the bulls. You're not going to somehow go off and use it to apply for high up analytical jobs, but it may help you out with giving you a better understanding of the things that you're going to work through in your roles at your schools. Some of you may be newer to data collection and analysts. Some of you guys might be seasoned looking at everything that we work on, and you've done it before. So it might be used to, but that can help you when you get a chance to work with your other staff members when we go into the breakout sessions. As like I said, later on, I'm going to put you guys into groups using the data, how its analysis can be helpful for more than just the grant requirements, because the data is used to inform you of what works and what doesn't. And it is more, like I said, useful than just using it for grant reporting. One example could be, let's say you've got mostly positive responses from female identifying students. What are some conclusions that you might draw for that? I mean, for me, if I was looking at it, I'd say, well, maybe we need to find more male identifying or gender neutral programming for the school. If the survey is basically just telling you it's only female respondents, then you might need to take a look at the programming to see what's going on there. Data could also look like many different things, from attendance reports to conversations in the hallways. So it's not just these reports where you see student interest surveys or teacher surveys or anything like that. It could be parent engagement, phone calls, conversations that you have with people. All of that can be collected, noted, analyzed, and used to improve your program going forward. Now, on our next slide, we're going to have an example here that I want to go over with you. Now, just a bit of a caveat. I know it may be slightly difficult to read because the text of it is a bit skewed, but the general idea of it hopefully still comes across clear enough. It's just the wording and the bar graph itself got a little bit pared down. Might make it a bit difficult to read. But what we're looking at right now is interest surveys for families and students. Now, as you guys know, this is usually given out at the beginning of the year. used to inform you of programming interests from the students and families. Now, in this example, you can see about 43 responses. It's pretty solid size to work with. And looking at the graph, I just want to hear from you guys in the crowd. What are some of the trends you think you might notice looking at the data that's here?
You said what are some of the what, Corey? I didn't catch the last part.
Some of the trends you might see in the graph itself. What's the graph telling you?
There are two things that parents definitely don't like. I don't know what they are, but only one or two different, maybe the same parent said yes. Or
Mhm.
checked off. But it looks like everything else has a lot of response.
Yeah.
Do you know what the last two are?
Those are these are technically, sorry, Corey, these are technically the student interest surveys, and the
Oh, I'm
bottom
sorry, yeah.
two are kind of like, these don't feel like the right approach. These don't, after school
Mm.
programming is not helpful. So,
So that means that it is helpful because, yeah.
So long story short, the close to, well, more on the half side, people believe that that all these programs are going to be helpful, that it would create greater success. There is a need, there is a want for them.
Exactly.
It's
And
like the families, I feel like they support it. I think that line that goes with them, I can't really tell because it seems like really small, but
yeah,
it seems like it's telling us that the family seems very supportive and that the reading programs are working and are improving kids' grades and stuff.
okay. So let's say you got a chance to take a look at that, and we're looking at the related health and nutrition and support skills being, I think I gotta zoom in on mine because I have mine smaller so I can read my notes. But if you were looking at this, and let's say this hypothetical school just has those two programs that are related to health and nutrition and support skills, what do you think should be your next steps if you got a chance to take a look at this data?
I would ask my health teacher if they would be interested in dive in more deep, like get more information about what that means to people. Because I think health and nutrition is like a very broad concept. And then I would do another survey to see, or if I could track it, see who said that that was what they were interested in, and then bring them into a group and see what they would want to, what that means, right? Does it mean basketball? Does it mean dance? Does it mean meditation? Does it mean actual food, right?
Exactly. And that's what we're kind of trying to get to today, is that when you get a chance to look at this, think about the other things in between the lines, so to speak, that the data is showing you. What she drew from there is saying, okay, well, we know that there's an interest in this broader category. Let's break it down to the minute details so we know exactly what to target. And even doing another survey could be a useful tool for you moving forward with working with your students. So great response. Great to hear from you.
Corey, what's the third one from the bottom? Because I'm
Well,
on my phone, so it looks a little different from me.
Yeah, I can't actually see the graph. I have notes that I wrote for.
Oh, okay, all right.
So give me 1 second while I zoom back into it. Or if Karina, you have the full screen of it, you can.
no, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't get too hung up on the titles for this. A lot of it, also all those slashes, it's half in Spanish too, which is why it looks more cut off than it is. It's just to really show you a visual about the different bars. I wouldn't get too hung up on this particular one. I would just, But yeah, I mean, in the actual survey result, you can see all the results. If you hover over those bars in Google Forms, you can see the full thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is a screenshot that we took.
And I think that you bring up an interesting point. Like, this is from Google Forms. It's a tool where you can generate visual reports you might use also in some circumstance to share information. So, and yeah, that tool exists in the software, so you should know.
A drum beat going on in the background there. It's pretty funny. Okay. Now on this slide, this is survey satisfaction data. This one, I just want to give a disclaimer. Like I said, there are duplicate responses in this one because the surveys were in multiple languages and we translated it afterward. But again, it's mostly just for the visual representation itself. So in these two pie charts, they are from the same responses. There's 52 participants. The first shows that around 50% of them had children that participated in after-school programming. But the second one shows that 94% of them wanted to know more. And to me, if I got a chance to take a look at that, just looking at it general, my first question would be, well, where the heck are the other half of the kids? You know, we got 94% of the responses that want to know more. The one thing that we would want to do is see where the rest of those students actually are. Click over to the next one there.
Oh, okay.
I think that's an interesting graph too, because if
There's a lot of conclusions in this one.
yeah, 50% are participating, but 94%, that means that more than half of those people whose kids are participating, or all those kids, all those parents whose kids are participating don't know what's going on in the program, right? There's another conclusion there that's about maybe communication strategies, right? Getting word out about what's happening in after school.
I think that was one thing that I realized jumping in was that we would constantly talk about programming, but because like we would call it MDV, or sometimes it was like labeled as different things, and like ours is MDV and Miguel del Valle, and parents like knew that their kids were in jewelry. So then when we're talking about MDV and programming and they're like, no, my kid doesn't do that. And then, you know, then you say something like, oh, we have this. And then they're like, oh yeah, my kid does it. Like same thing.
Yeah, that's a really excellent point, Kelsey. That kind of brings us back to the initial PDs that we ran on communication and making sure you have a consistent brand. And, you know, survey data like this, not only does it tell you like, I don't know, like, yeah, sure. Like Corey said, where are the other half of the students after school? You know, like Michael said, what does your parent outreach strategy look like? But also, what is your general communication strategy in terms of like distinguishing your 21st century program with the rest of the school after school programs, especially if you've got other program funding streams?
Because one thing that I would do too, just talking about that communication strategy is, and this could be a good idea for you, Kelsey, is if they have particular programs where the kid's going to take it home and say, I'm in jewelry, but the way that it's reported out for you guys is a different acronym to the name of the program, even giving them something as simple as a flyer or an email to give to their parents to say, this is the program, this is the information that I'm doing, so that they are more aware. So if you see a result like this, where the parents are like, I'm glad my kid's doing an after school program, but we want to know more about it. Maybe just sending out a little packet of information. I mean, we at ASN, I helped make a few of them. We've got an overall program sheet for the number of programs that we run. And it's a pretty lengthy PDF, but then it's got breakdowns of each individual program so that if anybody asks for information on 21st century or on RSP or anything like that, we can quickly shoot them that PDF that says, this is the program. Here's a picture or two from the kids participating in that particular program, so they get a little snapshot of what the kids are working on, and then talk about the details of it. So that, you know, when you see stuff like this, it can also be used to market itself. You know, if you need to recruit more students, they may say, hey, you know, do you have a friend that wants to go into the program? Remember that PDF that I have, they can share it with them, say, you know, check this out. This is what I'm doing after school. So there's a lot of things that can be concluded from just the simple pie chart that we have.
Yeah, we were thinking about taking like showcasing clubs monthly with something that they're producing, and then making those the family engagement events, and then simultaneously having something that would be useful. Like, so it would be part like, look at what I'll just stay with jewelry. Look at what the jewelry club's been making this entire month. But also we have somebody speaking about diabetes. So it'd be like, okay, it's a little gallery walk, but then if you want to stay and learn about, so it'd be like 2 for 1. And then it would, and, maybe somebody came exclusive for the jewelry, but then they got something else out of it, or vice versa. So we just kind of thought it, 2 for.
Exactly. Very, very good. That's exactly what I was talking about, is just letting it market itself to the other students. And in my next example here, this is an APR report. CitySpan does give you guys an option to run a bunch of different reports. I don't have enough time today to show you all the different options that are there and all the different reports that you can run, but all these reports will be able to help you in many ways. So when you guys do have some time, make sure you try to dive in the CitySpan to familiarize yourself with all the options that are there. And one other thing too, since we're talking about the APR reports in CitySpan, if you guys would be interested, or if there is anyone here that thinks a 1-minute video on how to run different reports might be helpful, please chuck it in the chat, or just, say yes or something like that, so we have a recording of it. So that we can see who might be interested in doing something like that, and we can put together a video here and there to show you how to run the different reports. So yeah, please, if it is something that's interested to you, just chuck a yes in the chat box, and we'll be able to look at the recording and pull it out.
Kelsey also added, sorry to interrupt you, that she runs random reports just to see it. Totally encourage everyone to do that. That's honestly going to be also one of the best ways to kind of figure out how you're going to get what you need. So yeah, great idea.
Okay. And this is us collecting data in real time. That's the same thing. So as you can see in this APR example, one thing that should jump out to you guys is our favorite fictitious program example is Goat Yoga. It just isn't working. You have a small number of participants that are there, generated from the APR report. But you can see that the Run Club is doing quite well, Knitting Club is doing quite well. So when you get a chance to run these reports, if you look through all the data, you do some research, and let's say you do discover that after this report, you do only see that it really is only 2 students that are continuing in that Goat Yoga program. Those students still clearly have a big interest in the program itself. They must really like it. They're continuing with their attendance. They're showing a lot of initiative and clearly want to continue in the after school programming. So for me, if I was looking at this when I used to have to look at after school or current school program data, one thing that I would do is I would come up with the approaches that I could take to seeing this. And for me, 2 quick things that would jump out, or 2 approaches that I would take, is 1, I would go speak to the students about the program, see what it is about it that they enjoy, maybe even ask them what are some things that they heard where some people maybe started and dropped the ball and weren't able to continue to attend. It could be attendance, it could be anything. But then I would ask those students, since you enjoy it so much, do you have 2 or 3 friends that might want to join you? If you ask for 2 or 3 friends apiece to come and join them, that could bolster the enrollment for that yoga program itself. And if they do bring in a couple other students, that would help the enrollment in that program, and it could continue. The other option would be to speak with them about, is it just being active, having some sort of an athletic after school program that you enjoy? And if the Goat Yoga isn't there in the next quarter, is there something else that you might want to attend? And you can move them into a new program so you don't lose the students overall as a whole. And then maybe just restructure the program itself. But yeah, just if you guys come up with some different approaches or some ideas, this is the kind of thing that we want you to take a look at when you see reports like this, and start to think about the different creative ways that you can continue to work with your students, even when you come across things like this. It could be even as something as simple as the scheduling is difficult, moving it to a different time, and making it more accessible for some students, because they could just say, we really like it, but it's at 5:30 and we can't make it, But if it was at 7 a.m., then the kids could make it. They could come before school and still get their hour of yoga in before classes start. Now, in my next slide here, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a quick 5-minute break. When we come back, like I said, I'm going to have you guys work at groups. So Jiraiya here is giving you 5, and we'll see you when everybody comes back, okay?
Awesome. Water break.
Thank you. I'm going to continue to play music. Is this what I like to do?
So looking forward to visiting El Bisu Campos tomorrow for culminating events. Very exciting.
They're so nervous to share, but it's like I'm really excited to see everything, and all the students have to like participate in the other students' things.
Right, right.
And so then I hope that helps them build confidence, but it's gonna be really good. Like yeah, there's so much going on. It'll be great.
And Santina, will Santina be there?
Mhm.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Santino, Juanita, yeah, everyone will be there. It'll be cool.
Very cool.
And also, bring your appetite.
All right. All right.
We won't have as many different types of food options as Association House, but there's a lot of food that will be had.
Great, great.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. So in this section, like I said, I'm going to break you guys out into teams. There will be report outs afterwards. So from each of the groups that you go into, just nominate one person that's comfortable with sharing back to the group once we join everybody back into the whole. What we're going to have you work on today is there's going to be several different teams. So team 1 through 6 or whatever it's going to be. We're going to put a Jamboard link in the chat, and it'll say the name of the team in the top left, and then it'll have your example. There's going to be a guiding question on part 1, but essentially we're going to give you an example of data that you may collect. And what we're going to want you to do is to let us know what the data is telling you. Figure out some things that you can assume or you get a chance to look at by interpreting the data, and then talk about how that data can be implemented or used to improve your program going forward. So take a look at what the data is telling you, figure out some conclusions that can be drawn from it, and then talk about some ways that that data can be useful moving forward. The whole idea for this is just to get you an idea of how to, take the information that we have you do, that it's not just busy work, it's not just for grant reporting, it's for listing some ways on the data that can, listing ways that the data can help your program moving forward after you take a look at all of it. Okay, so we are going to break you out into groups. Karina and I will jump around, hopefully, I think, to check in with you guys, tackling questions that you may have. Put up some little sticky notes. Somebody in the group might need to write a few things down, but when we bring you back, we're going to have your report out on it. How much time do they have again, Karina? Is it 20 minutes?
So you'll have just under 20 minutes. Each example may not take that whole time. I was going to suggest there's going to be 4 rooms just because of the amount of people. We want at least, we want 3 people per group. You're only obligated to report out on the room/example that you're associated with. But if you've got extra time, we encourage you to look at the other examples just to kind of familiarize yourself. They're all slightly different. We've got 6 total examples, so there's 2 bonus examples if you want to take a peek. But yeah, we'll have just under 20 minutes. I'm posting the Jamboard in the chat now. Feel free to open it right now to tell me that you can't access it so that I can fix it now. And I'll go ahead and break you guys out in 20 seconds. Oh, great, it works. I'm just gonna break you out now. Okay, great.
Nice, look at that.
I learn slowly. And Corey, I don't think you and I were assigned to either group, but I think we should just hop around, like you
Okay.
said.
Yeah. I think Eva hasn't gone into one yet. Eva and Vanessa.
They might have stepped away. I'll give them a minute.
Somebody is in a room.
Ah, she got booped out. I'm gonna join room 2 so Craig knows that people are coming.
Yeah.
Hey y'all, something happened with me. I don't know what happened. Am I in a group or no?
I'm gonna get you in. You're in group 2, so
I was in group 2, so for some reason it just my screen went blank. I apologize.
that's all right. Let me get you back in there.
Thanks, Corey.
Josue, are you there?
Or slight decline. I feel kind of colorblind.
Oh, where did she go? I didn't know if she was gonna assign me a different room. Okay, here we go.
Corey, can you put me back in my room because I got clicked out for a minute? I was in 3.
All right. I think everybody's trickling back in from the groups.
Did you like my disclaimer that I was going to try?
It worked because we stopped talking and we sort of like, okay, we're about to go back in. Good job. I like that.
Kareem is going to, it's all out instantly.
Is that everybody out of the groups?
I don't think so. Here we go. There we go.
Welcome back.
Oh,
My slide pictures.
I'm actually probably going to stop screen sharing when people do the group reports, and maybe I should screen share the Jamboard. Does that sound
Yeah.
like a good idea for everybody?
Yeah,
good.
for- that way we can go through each group based on whatever one's up on the Jamboard. Sure.
I'm excited to hear the different ways people looked at this.
Me too.
All right, I will share screen. All right.
Hopefully you guys have picked your presenter for the group.
Did anybody get to multiple examples, or did anyone have any general thoughts or feedback on the data examples in general?
I like how they're very different. I think we always see graphs, but ours was number 4. And it was just like I heard a student in the hallway. Yeah, I put my observations on that slide.
Nice.
And then I also looked at number 6.
Right, shall I?
Yeah, click through. We'll start on let's see which team's up first. I'm assuming team 1.
That is the general trend.
All right. So who had example 1? Sadiqa, and who else was in your group, Sadiqa?
Willie and Deshaun. And Mike.
Okay. So which one of you guys is going to do the report outs today?
So I'll go. My mic is off. I'll walk right into that one, huh? Okay.
You did. Very good.
Oh,
So in our group, we had the teacher survey, and in it, we just saw that if there was a lot of improvement between both of the graphs that the teachers reported out on these responses about completing homework and participating in class. We talked about if coordinators have access to this data. Should we try to see the data on a timely basis? And what else? I guess I'm just reading from the stickies now. Like if we took the students' names and cross-referenced them to enrollment, some conclusions could be drawn about the impact on individuals. And could we ask aligned questions to parents or students? Like could we ask some of these same questions to those two populations and see if they've noticed any improvement, or if they've noticed a decline, or some slight improvement, just to see if what the teachers are noticing, engaging, aligns with like what parents and students think as well. And we also talked about how we can probably take a deeper dive with these surveys and try to pinpoint like what activities in the after school program are driving significant improvement, slight improvement, the moderate improvement, and how these activities are keeping students engaged. And yeah, just figure out like which of the activities correlate, to these subjects that that teachers are reporting that, they've seen all of this really good improvement in students' actions and behaviors and homework and stuff in the classroom.
There were a couple other things we talked about, like these numbers are so positive, they could be used to market the program to students or maybe parents in particular, or to other funders, right? And we're trying to develop partnerships and say, look at our after school program. This is what teachers are saying. This is super positive impact. There could be a way to use this to bring even more resources to the program. And Karina, correct me if I'm incorrect. Do they have the link to the teacher survey to view the results as well? They do, right?
You have links to everything you could possibly want. And if you don't, I'll give it to you.
All right. Thank you very much for your report out, Sadiqa. And in group 2, who's in group 2? Or had example 2? Who was the one who worked on this one?
It was me, Mr. Alexander, and Maria. Maria came in late, but one of the things we kind of talk about with the interest survey is that we really use that survey over at McKinley, because that's how we create our programs and how we centralize and we hear the students' needs. And I was piggyback on a statement that was made earlier that majority, when we get our feedback and our interest surveys back, majority of them are from females, Corey. And it's really unfortunate.
So that's a good example, huh?
Yes, that was, because they hit home. Because trying to get the young men to fill out the surveys and everything, it's like pulling teeth. And then we were also talking about the contact numbers. Just trying to get numbers from them, that's hard too, because they change numbers like they change clothes. And one of the things Maria kind of hit on is what we were also talking about is a lot of them are so used to filling out papers. It's good that we actually have a platform where it's just short, where they can actually do it for their phone, and do it, from Google Chrome, instead of just having 5 simple, easy questions to answer and just keep without explaining themselves. And Maria and I both agreed that it's good to actually, if we can just talk through and just get that information and just actually kind of just talk it out and speak it out, instead of having them to type it out and explain it. And I try to tell them, I says, look, sometimes when you fill out a survey from SurveyMonkey and everything else, you get bombarded with emails like, hey, try this, 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 and this when you sign up. A lot of them don't like giving out their information when you do surveys, like putting in their names and email addresses. But we try to say, you can put in your identifying information if you want to. But the student interest survey, we tell them to really just be honest. This is how we build a program for you guys, and just answer the questions. But I like the platform that we have. We can use the link. They can answer from their phone or whatever, but keeping up with sheets of paper, no. But I like the Google form. It's real easy, and it's simple, and it's straight to the point. And I love the fact that you guys give us autonomy. If there's a question on there, if we want to edit and redo or input our own, pretty much we can fix it, for ours and customize it for our own doing.
Nice. A big conclusion that you guys are drawing from this program, or from the data you see in the survey.
Seems
What
like
would
we've
you
got
say?
someone typed on the side there.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, it's moving.
It is moving.
I think that's a good conclusion, though. This ghost is saying that the school is doing generally better than not with helping the post-sec plans. Majority seems to be a 3 or higher.
Yeah.
Anybody else notice anything about this particular graph? Considering that?
It's also in different languages, English and Spanish.
They're all in English and Spanish, yeah.
We
What
had
about
to.
the results of this.
The results is actually good. It shows that you actually having people actually to fill it out. So that's actually good. And it's also kind of answering the question. People are thinking about graduation, plans after graduation. So that's one of the biggest things that we actually are taking a look at. Because I think, Corey, we talked about that a while, getting them prepared for what's going on after school, what they're going to do after. Where so kind of speaking that and just keep having those ongoing conversations, to prepare them pretty much for that. So I think the preparation in this to just keep talking about post-graduation plans, that's the key thing right there. What's your plan B for afterwards? What are you going to do later?
Good. Okay. Now, the other thing there, we're going to move on to example 3. That's all right, Karina. It's okay, as I know I don't want to try to keep everybody over time. So we'll jump over here to example 3. The last thing I was just going to say is you only have a couple missing responses. A lot of people responded at the school, responded positively, I would say, to the school, saying, 20%, 12%, 11%. The bigger majority of the responses are saying that their high school is helping them prepare for post-graduation. So the good thing that you could say is, the school is helping the students out. That's all I have. In example 3, who did I have on this team?
Me and Tanya and Allegis. So we noticed that it was all females that had answered this survey, which raised some general red flags for various reasons. And there could be a lot of things that tells us, did they not want to fill it out? Were none present? Were they not interested? Tanya, can you think of anything else about just why all women, or if there was was there somehow an error in the survey that it would only, like, somehow they couldn't click? Was that option added later and somebody didn't notice?
Right. Or was it just not any males involved in the program? Like I was saying, like if you don't have basketball, we sometimes don't even see our males. So it's like, do we have any programs for males? Is that why we put females on the interest survey? So
and then what was question number 2? What can you assume? Assumptions. So assumptions that can be made. So looking at this now that all females have only taken this, or presumed female identifies, people that identify as females, it was just a matter of, 42% want to go to college, 25% are unsure about what they want to do after high school, and then 33% wanted to get a good paying job. And so we had discussed further about possible further surveys, like what does it mean to get a good job? How do you get a good job? Why are the reasons that people want to get a good job over going to college? How do they think they're going to get a good job without going to college? Is college one thing, but they're thinking about vocational opportunities? So there was just so many other questions to be asked in reference to those particular groups. And then the unsure or getting a good paying job, the question we asked ourselves was, were you avoiding college or choosing college as an option because of financial issues? And is that a big deterrent? So then maybe it's not a question of, I'm not interested in college, but I can't afford college, so that's why it's not on my radar. So do we then create a club for both the kids that want to go to college and the ones that, originally weren't interested, as a big scholarship club, where it's just, you're constantly looking up different scholarships and, learning how to write papers and all the things. And, there's so many scholarships out there. So if that's a way to get kids that originally weren't interested in college to be interested. And then the unsure right now, there's so many things, because why are you unsure? Are you unsure of your opportunities? Are you unsure because of finances? So I think that there's so many questions that a lot of assumptions can't be made. And it would just kind of need further investigation.
Right. And just enhancing our mentoring program to ensure that we're providing the youth with the proper resources and tools that they need to know the importance of college during these days and time to get to those who are unsure. So we talked about that.
And then the last question was, how can this be implemented for improvement? I mean, based on there's so many things that you can do just to provide resources in reference to these answers. And I think then based on, the results of the directions you decide to go, then you can kind of decide whether those redirections or maybe the same things that you were planning on doing provided the results you were looking for, and then move forward. And then reach out to other people in reference to, if you have some ideas and there's somebody else that maybe was in the exact same situation, to find out what they've done and what directions may be best to go in.
Kelsey, your group, you and Tanya, the two things you mentioned that kind of stuck out to me that made a lot of sense was looking at the two that responded unsure of getting a good paying job. I mean, that's what, 58% of the students in this pie graph. One thing that I would see when I would see not large numbers like this, when I was working with student demographics of this age, is I would ask them, well, what about a career fair? Would you be interested in looking at, because it tackles both of those at the same time, right? You can talk to students about, here's good paying opportunities, bring some people in to talk about their jobs. And then it also can help some of those unsure students get a bit of a guidance or a direction. So it could lead them to school because they could see, oh, the good paying job requires me to go to college. The other ones could say, oh, I didn't know that I could do this. I love this job. They might not even have known about it. I've run into a lot of students like, I don't even know what an art director does or a creative director does. But then when they get a chance to speak with one of them, they're like, that's the thing I want to do. And then they get some guidance towards it. So you brought up a really good point, talking about, okay, is it that you really don't want to go to college, or is it just you're unsure about the resources that are there? So that's an awesome conclusion to come from there for sure. Yeah, there are so many jobs that exist that people have no idea about. That's 100% sure. Kelsey put that in the chat. Thanks.
I also wanted to tag in a quick comment here. When Kelsey, you brought up question 3, continuous improvement. What are some ways to kind of implement that to improve programming? Obviously many of you know this, but I just want to reiterate that continuous improvement doesn't always necessarily mean that the next step is going to be just like a positive solution. Sometimes the next step is a follow-up survey. Sometimes it's, talking with your student advisory board that you have created throughout the year, right? Sometimes it just simply means iterations, right? What's the next thing that you need to do to be able to improve? And that doesn't always necessarily mean a solution right away. So I think that's an important thing to kind of keep in mind, because a lot of you so far in all 3 of these examples have suggested follow-up information, which is kind of probably going to be your largest takeaway from many surveys and many conversations in the hallway and whatnot.
More detail,
I'll move
right?
forward.
More detail.
I believe this is Marie, Anna, and Vanessa from Aspida.
So yeah, this is a great example of being vigilant and catching the data live. Some things that I thought of. So you want a new student, I'll let everybody read it first, and then I'll explain my thoughts going through this. So I think the work competition is going to be a very real thing when school starts, and it already is now. When we're calling students about orientation, like, oh, you're not virtual anymore? No, we're not, like the rest of the country, right? And so the things that I thought about were clearly work is a priority. Do we have any programs that offer stipends or can pay, right? Do we have after school matters that could, that the student could participate in it? Are there other times that we could have programming, maybe on a weekend or before school? How many other students are in this same situation? Like, is that a big gap for us that we need to consider? And this is something that I really think is important, is do they need someone to advocate for them at work So sometimes students need me to write a letter and provide the schedule and be like, no, this young person's in school. They cannot work at this time, even though you're short-staffed, they're still, you know, in high school. And that usually works. Do I need to have a phone call with the manager or whatever? Yeah. And then Vanessa, I think, put, yeah, are there other options to work around their schedule, right? And then the same thing going back, do we need a career fair with placements of people who understand that these are not just like robots, these are young people who are trying to graduate high school and learn, right? And have a fulfilling life and quality of life, and that you can't just take advantage of their time. And I honestly think a lot of our students don't know a lot about their rights when it comes to working or when it comes to housing. And so I think, I didn't put this down, but I think that's another gap of like, how can we bring someone in to inform them, like, you have a job, this is what you're entitled to, you know, make sure that, especially now that everything is just, I feel like students have jobs for like 2 weeks and then they're like, I don't want this one, I want this one. And it's like, how do you make sure you got paid for your time, that you're not working too much, that you're working your job that you're hired for, right? So, yeah, I think of my students who get taken advantage of, and they're like, oh, I have to work. And like, no, or they're going to cut my hours. And it's like, how can we help them advocate?
That is awesome. Advocating for the students, being there for them, you know, writing them a letter. I used to do that too, man. I'd have kids that were like, well, I can't make class this time, I got to go to work. I'd call it a job. Hey, I understand you got Terry is working with you guys at 6. He can't work at that time. He's got this class. I'll fax you over a copy of his schedule, or I'll email you a copy of his schedule.
Fax, Corey, calm
Hey,
down.
man,
A
I'm
fax.
old.
No, fax
old.
over
I've been a
schedule.
Director for a million years. I used to have to fax people's schedule. That worked at an oil change shop. That was the only way that you could do this stuff, because dude didn't have an email at the shop. So I'm like, I'll fax it to you. I gotta do what I gotta do sometimes. Oh man.
So we've got, I think 1 or 2 more minutes here. I know that we had 2 other slides that were bonus slides. This one is the same as what we went through together, but do we want to spend 1 whole minute kind of looking at the last slide? I know, Marie, it was really kind of you and Eva and Craig who kind of looked at this. Would you mind taking a quick 30-second recap of it? Or do we want to just kind of?
We looked at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this arbitrary list of things had 3 things that I considered. So there's a diverse funding stream that seems to be apparent. I know that After School Matters is paid, so Cookin must have a successful history, and that's why it's being invested in. Maybe the X program fund is a technology or a media fund, and that's why it's for these 2 particular groups. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was just kind of thinking about different ways you could kind of integrate and think about 21st Century as not only a partner of other funding streams, but also thinking about what other programs exist and what they can offer, and how, you know, not only can you distinguish yourselves in 21st Century, but become partnerships. But we just wanted to show you a wide array of different examples that all technically are real-time data that you can use to kind of grow and expand upon your program. So Corey, I'll let you wrap it up.
Something that Corey said a while back about is we get more students and more money will be put in the program. So I think with popularity, with more kids, more money. So everybody want to learn how to cook, and everybody want to be a Chef Emerald. So absolutely. But I think anime and everything else is actually picking up too. So that seems to be the good thing. But yeah, I would say get the kids what they want.
Nice. Anime's big, hence my slides today. Hopefully you guys appreciated my goofiness for the afternoon. Really, the main takeaway that I wanted to go for as we kind of look back at everything that we covered is you guys are doing a great job of already understanding the data that you're looking at. you know, implementing the things that you see and seeing the different results from the surveys and the work that you put in and figuring out those out-of-box solutions to help the students move forward is what it's all about. I mean, you guys are doing great, and we're just here to support you, keep up the work that you're doing, and spend some time in these training sessions that we kind of put together with you guys to share a little bit of that information amongst yourselves. I mean, you guys are right there in the thick of it all the time working with these students, so we definitely appreciate all the work that you have. I appreciate you coming to my training today, spending a bit of time with me. If you do have any questions, especially about the handbook or some of the links, if you need to see some of the survey results, I know some of you responded about wanting to see some of those instructional videos. We'll get on those for you guys. We'll get the handbook squared away and out to your Google folders pretty soon here, I think. And then, yeah,
Within the next day or two.
okay. And
Yeah,
then
by the
if
end
you
of the
got any other questions for us, please feel free to reach out. But
And
Does Mandafo still have her video from when she showed us how to run the
yes,
reports?
they're all on our YouTube
yes,
channel,
Yeah.
which are also on the ASN Engage website.
Yeah.
Just look them up, keep it in your tab. We'll put them probably there.
Because that's the one that I use to do to run my reports. I look at hers.
Yeah, I know that's the one that's got the most views. She's very popular. But I want to really quickly reiterate too, please don't forget about those exit tickets that we're going to send in that follow-up email. That's our data. That really matters to us. We want to give you relevant information. So please don't forget to fill that out, and also to set up your MOU meeting for the fall if you have not already. We'll include that in the follow-up email too, so you don't forget.
yeah, let me know if I'm doing okay or I need to improve. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Enjoy your afternoon.